When I came into sobriety, I was 31 years old. And that was a long time ago. I'm in my 60s now, and I haven't drank since. But I want to talk to you about what it was like for me when I sobered up. And people who think that alcoholism, drug addiction, and all that sort of stuff is not a big deal and is not difficult to sober up and get your life in order, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know at all what they're talking about. When I sobered up, my world caved in on me. I had a common law relationship. I had 2 children, a little boy who was like 5 or 6 months old. I had a daughter that was 2, 3 years old. I had a wife, or a common law wife. Our relationship was just garbage. I was unemployable. I couldn't keep my emotions regulated. I became very abusive. I became very argumentative. I was full of guilt, shame. I had a lot of anger problems. Oh, it was difficult. I wasn't eating properly, believe it or not, because I was a nervous wreck. You know, I thought when I sobered up, when I stopped the booze and drugs, that my life would get better. I really did, because I really believed that the main problem was the alcohol and the drugs at the time. Was I ever wrong? Yeah, you can't get recovery without stopping drinking. But I didn't understand the size of my problems when I quit. And what happened, I became very abusive. My ex, the girlfriend at that time, common law wife, was a cop caller. She called the cops on me all the time, and I'm sober. I haven't had a drop of alcohol in me, and I'm acting 10 times worse than I was when I was drinking. You know, I used the alcohol to soothe me, to calm me down, to relax me, to make me more pliable to the world around me, for lesser words. So when that was gone, all that anger, all that low self-esteem, that worthlessness, that sadness, that guilt, that depression came up like a tidal wave. It's like the alcohol was holding it back like a dam. But when it came out, when it was gone, that's when whole hell broke out. It really did. Like I said, the police were called a number of times. That relationship ended up failing. And basically, I ended up on the street. Well, pretty close to the street. Like 1 foot on the street, 1 foot in the YMCA here in Ottawa, Ontario. But I was down and out. I just could not get my life in order. And I look at people in sobriety nowadays and I'm like, holy jump, you guys got it pretty good. But I don't know their backstory, right? I don't know what they're going through at home, because, you know, the face that we show the world and the face that we have at home, or what's really going on, is too different, right? We don't go around showing everybody our deepest difficulties. Well, at least I didn't anyways. So to make a long story short, I ended up eventually getting on welfare because I was unemployed. And welfare paid for a room for me in the YMCA here in Ottawa. And I thought it was pretty damn good, because besides, you know, if I didn't get that room, if I didn't get that place to stay, I would have been on the streets. But it just came into the right time, the right position time in my life, it turned out. But this sobriety business, man, oh man. Like, my ex-girlfriend of those children, she was brutal on me. When that happened, the time was that the divorce laws were changing, the child support laws were changing. I'm just going to say it the way it is, right? I'm not going to, you may think I'm blaming people or whatever, but I'm just going to tell you the way it is. Every time I walked in the court, they were against me. I had no funds to see my children. I had no ability to pay a lawyer. Nothing. And legal aid was totally fucking useless. They always wanted me to give in, and they were useless. I felt really abandoned. My children, I didn't see. I couldn't see. And when I saw them, I was just obsessed with the situation, with the problems. My family didn't really want much to do with me, because I was always a bit of a trouble person, a bit of a basket case, I think, in their eyes. You know, that first year, that first 2 years of sobriety was a torture test. It really was. I had assault charges. I had breach of probation charges. I had collectors after me. I had no ability to buy a car. I had no ability to take local transit. Like, I'm talking down and out. The alcoholism and the insanity of it all cut me off at my knees. And I thought if I stayed sober, that was good enough. And it wasn't. It wasn't good enough. It was a big start, but it never got me or took me where I am today. Because the insanity of the addiction outweighs what's like it's like I can't describe it, what it was like. The only way I can say, if you can relate to this video, you'll understand exactly where I'm coming from. It's like I didn't expect it. It's like I quit drinking and I got ran over by an 18-wheeler at the same time. I remember going to work in the morning. Eventually I got a job when I worked at the Y, and thinking I should just kill myself. An OC Transport bus was driving, and I wanted to take my bicycle at that time and just run into the bus head on. And I'm sober, and I'm insane, and I'm going crazy, and I cannot handle it. I go to 12-step groups. I'm crying all the time. I'm freaking out all the time. I just couldn't handle life. It was too hard for me. It was too hard. The impact of drugs and alcohol over the years and shitty childhood or whatever it was came to light, and it destroyed me in my sober life. It really did. I went to these 12-step programs, and there was a guy there who took a liking to me. His name was Jim, and we're still friends to this day, believe it or not, 30 years later. And he spent countless hours talking to me. And, advising me what to do and how to handle things. At times I never would listen to him and get myself in a jackpot again, or I would listen to him. So once I ran into this guy, sort of life started to change, right? I stayed in my head so much. I was a major loner. If people got to know who I was, they wouldn't like me, so I didn't bother with anybody. But those first couple of years was awful. It really was. As time went on, I got a lawyer, eventually was able to pay for a lawyer. I went to try and see my children. Getting to see my children in early recovery was probably one of the hardest things I ever tried to do. The law was against me. The person who was the mother of the children just didn't want me around anywhere of the children, and to be anywhere around the children. I was too nuts. I don't blame her, really. I really don't. It was sad, though. My God, it was sad. They put me on supervised access to see my kids. My children weren't even allowed to call me daddy. I couldn't believe that. It used to hurt my feelings so bad. I remember one time I told them all to go to hell, and they corralled me and followed me around like a herd of, they were dykey looking women, and they're like herding me, corralling me like I was gonna, attack them. And I remember I went to my car and I put my bag in the car, like I brought things for my kids in the car, and then they thought I had a gun in my car, so they called the police on me. Believe it. I sat on the curb and cried my eyes out that day. It was so fucking insane. And here's me trying to be a better father, trying to be a better employee, just trying to be a better person. And I just kept getting knocked down all the time. It's like the world was against me. I'm getting sober and the world was against me. It was like a fight to become sober, to get my life to be normalized again. But the one thing I refused to do is to give up. I never gave up. It didn't matter how crappy life got. I always wanted to move forward. For some reason, I always wanted to do that. I understand, and I feel for people in recovery from alcoholism or drugs why you want to give up. And being a guy, I think nowadays it's a little more difficult. No offense to the women out there. Not more difficult to get sober, but more difficult to maneuver around the child support issues, the seeing the children issues, all those sort of things. So eventually, like I mentioned earlier, I got charged for uttering threats. Yeah, I was uttering threats to my ex. And they put me in jail. And after that, I ran to a treatment center. I knew a psychiatrist at the Royal Ottawa. And he took me sort of under his wing a little bit, and he got me in a treatment center right away. So I kind of hid from the law, you know, that old scenario. I remember that psychiatrist telling me, Terry, what is wrong with you? Why are you so upset? Why are you so sad? And I didn't even know. And I'm sober through all this. At this time when I went to the treatment center, I probably had 8 or 9 months sobriety, or so-called sobriety. And I went to that treatment center, and again, being locked up, I was a nervous wreck. Being locked up in a treatment center was really difficult for me because I didn't have movement. I couldn't release the anxiety. You know, my psychiatrist thought I had hyperactivity, so they put me on Ritalin. I don't advise going on Ritalin. I was also put on antidepressants. There's a number of things I was put on because I was so nuts. People thought there was an issue with me, like a medical or psychological issue. But I was an alcoholic with a bunch of issues. So I stayed sober. I can't believe it that I stayed sober through the whole ordeal. And that thing with my ex, I never got to see my children. My children, I don't really know them very well to this day. Am I responsible for some of it? Sure I am, but I'm not responsible for all of it. People say, you know, clean up our side of the street. I've tried to keep my side of the street clean, but eventually, and I hate to say this, and I regret saying this sometimes, eventually I just had to say to myself, I can't keep fighting the forces that are bigger than me. I can't financially support this. I can't emotionally support it and try and get my life in order. By this time, she's taken the kids and moved out to Yellowknife, so that was like totally impossible. I live in Ottawa, do the math. That's probably like, I don't know how far it is, but it takes 24 hours by flight to get there. She cut me off the talking to my kids. I'd send them presents and she'd say that I was trying to buy my children. It's like everything I did was not welcomed, even on the smallest levels. So I had a sponsor at that time in these 12-step programs, and he told me, Terry, why don't you just give up on it? Why don't I just give up? It felt good to hear that, because I did fight a lot, trying to see my kids. But when she moved out to Yellowknife, she just systematically cut me off. Some guy named Chris was her father. You know, there's one thing I've learned in sobriety and life in general, that it ain't fair. And when you're down and out and you're at your weakest point, that's when it feels more or less fair. You know, like it feels terrible. And I don't know, this tough love business sucks. Anyways, I don't see my children to this day, and you know, am I good with it? I have to be good with it. Once I let go of that fight with my ex, first couple of years, it was kind of good. I started to feel a little more relief because I was focusing on that battle all the time, and I wasn't able to help myself get better. And once she was out of the picture and the kids were sort of out of the picture, I don't like to say it like that, I was able to focus on myself and start really getting better. So 3 to 5 years of my sobriety, the first 3 years it was all that garbage I just talked about. But after that, it became about me. It became about my issues, my trauma, my difficulties in life. What was the problem with me? And I spent many years in therapy sorting things out. I always say, you know, I didn't think of sobriety was about, you know, fixing the first half of your life. You know, the first half of your life, and then the second half was fixing the first half. I didn't realize that. But you know, I understand what it's like to be lonely. I understand what it's like to go home and there's nobody there. And you're trying your best. You're trying your best to be a better person, but you drink or you're not drinking, and life just cuts you down at the rate, cuts you right down at the knees. And you say to yourself, like, what the fuck is going on here? What the hell is going on here? You know? And you say those things to yourself. And I get it. I get that. I get that big time. And I just want to say that if being sober is your priority, if you put it in priority in your life, your chances of staying sober one day at a time are pretty good. And there'll be a lot of things that come in your life that, like me, will knock you down, will discourage you, will make you anger, make you enraged sometimes. But if you're sober and you go through that, you will learn from that, just like I did. Just like I did. I made some really big choices in my sobriety, in early sobriety, like you can see, not talking to my children. And maybe I paid that price. But at the time, I made the right decisions at the right time with the knowledge that I had to work with. I didn't do it because I didn't want to see my children. I didn't do it because of selfish needs. I did it because everybody around me, not everybody, there's only 2 people really who was involved in my life. They said, it's enough, Terry. You've tried. I tried for years. And if somebody doesn't want you to see the children, you're not going to see them. That's the way I looked at it. Nowadays, it's changed. But at that time, like I said, in the early 90s, all the laws changed and they were double downing on the guys. They really were. And so I just moved forward. I married again. I divorced again. I've been divorced. I've been married 3 times. My emotions and my mental health caused me a lot of difficulties in sobriety. They really did. But what I can tell you, and I can tell you the truth, I can tell you really up front, is that the only person capable of helping you is you. And the only way to get help is to ask for it. To ask for it. And the only way to get better is to be honest with yourself. Tell people what's going on. Tell professionals what's going on so they can help you. And in our world, in Canada and hopefully other parts of the world, when somebody wants help, it may be slow getting in. But once you're in, there'll be lots of it. You can go to 12-step programs. There's a lot of ears there you can bend. There's a lot of great things out there that you can do. But there's one thing I need you to understand, and I want you to know this. Don't give up on yourself. Don't. Whatever happens, don't do that. Don't give up on yourself. Don't abandon yourself. I don't care what's happened. Don't. Because I just about did that. I just about gave up on myself when I told you about taking the bicycle and ramming into an OC Transpo to out myself. OC Transpo bus. The day that happened, I went to an outreach program and they told me they couldn't help me. After all that, they told me they couldn't help me, and I was desperate, man. I was really desperate. Jesus. Was I ever desperate? So that's, early sobriety was not easy. And sobriety is not easy. For some of us, it is. Some people get on the recovery wagon and they never stop, and their life gets much better, much quicker. For me, it didn't happen like that. For me, every inch and every foot I had to fight for, just like I was in a war at the beginning. But I did sober up. I did get some mental clarity, and I got some emotional intelligence or some emotional balance in my life. And to this day, I refuse to give up. My sobriety is number one, because without it, I don't have the mental health. I don't have the emotional health or the physical health. And if I have my health, it's wealth. whatever the world can throw at me, as long as I'm trying to stay healthy in all those areas, I can take it on one day at a time. I really can. But if I start drinking or start drugging or falling back into old ways, the world becomes a more big of a monster sort of thing. I think the world's against me. I really don't think the world's against me. I don't think anybody's against me anymore. My biggest enemy is the person talking to you in this video is me. That was my biggest enemy. The biggest war that I had to fight, or the biggest things that I had to get over, is myself. And work on myself. Yeah, shit happens. I get it. But we have to work on ourselves and become strong within ourselves. And doing that, the first step is to ask for help. And try and take that help, even if you don't believe it. Just try and take it and try and understand it. Because you never know. The miracle could be just around the corner. It really could. You know, I work hard at these videos. I try and help people build awareness. They're not that fancy. They're not that, you know, great like others. But, you know, what I share here is honesty. What I share here is truth. What I share here is hope and awareness that you out there, whoever you are, can get better. You out there can come out of the darkness and feel better about yourself and the world around you. Isn't that what it's all about? You know, we live in a wonderful country. We live in a wonderful time in history. But a lot of us suffer from problems. And mine was mental health issues, alcoholism, and a whole bunch of others. Okay? So can you get sober? Yes, you can. You can. Can life get better? Yes, it will get better. But the thing is, you can't drink. Don't drink. And go to 12-step groups, Smart Recovery, whatever it is, get some support and get engaged in your recovery. Get engaged in your life. Get engaged in it. And things will come to pass. The negativity, the bad childhood, whatever it is, will come to pass. Believe it or not. I'm living proof of that. I'm living proof of that. I could tell you 1,000 things about the disasters in my life and things that I overcome. But there's one thing that helped me the most in my whole life. It was staying sober. Because staying sober opens up that Pandora box of crap that you can take a look at and start shining some light on and start undoing the harms or the problems that you have. It's true. It really is. Help is just an ask away. It really is, okay? So don't give up on yourself. Take it a day at a time. And just remember that drinking is not that big of a deal. It really isn't. There's a lot of people out there who don't drink. And there's a lot of people out there who drink, but just a little bit. So giving up alcohol is not as big deal as you think it is. It really isn't. It just seems overwhelming at the time because of the issues, because of the problems associated with recovery. That's the problem. It's not the drinking. It's the fucking truckload of shit that we see, that we feel when we recover, when we're in recovery. But it's not impossible. It's not. Okay? My name is Terry G. This is an alcohol-free life channel where we learn to live sober one day at a time. If you can take a second, please subscribe. Take another second and hit that like button. But thanks a lot for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I want to see people get sober. I care about people in sobriety. And I know that sobriety can be a very lonely place to be. It can. It can be torture to be in early sobriety. It really can. But you're worth it. So get on the road. Remember what I said. If you need help, you have to ask for it. You have to ask for it. You really do. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Isn't that neat, Dave? All this grass that I'm sitting on, it's grass. It's all colored leaves. You can probably see it. I think it's pretty cool, actually. I'm glad I'm sat outside today to do this video. I really am. See you later, folks. Ciao for now.